I must admit that I had to go to Google to find out what a school board member is supposed to do, because I don't really know what a school board member is supposed to do. Theoretically, a school board member makes policy and the superintendent implements the policy. And it's the board's responsibility to see that the superintendent does what the board has decided should be done. One of the things that I read that struck me is that, quote, a board that actually knows that its job is not the same as the superintendent's job would also know that it is entirely possible for a board to do its work even if the superintendent is not present at the time. The superintendent is a valuable source of information. The board has to find a way to own its meeting while availing itself of information that the board needs and the superintendent can supply. In other words, the board should be acting independently of the superintendent. They should be seeking advice from the superintendent. They should be seeking information from the superintendent, but they should be making decisions independent of the superintendent. There was a list of, there were pages and pages and pages of advice of what you're supposed to do if you're on the school board. And some of the things that I found significant were that the board always keeps learning and achievement for all students as the primary focus. My big issue, kids come first. It also recognizes and respects differences of perspective and style on the board and among staff, students, parents, and community. This is also, I think, a major issue on our board where there was dissension and frankly, disrespect. The board understands that authority rests with the board as a whole and not with individuals, and that they must communicate a common vision, operate openly with trust and integrity, and govern in a dignified and professional manner, treating everyone with civility and respect. I think this pretty much summarizes what I think a board should do. I think I have a big learning curve ahead of me, and I look forward to it. I mean, at my age, new learning is exciting.
I think Barbara did a really good job sharing what the responsibilities are of a board member. That's what I do. I listen to everyone that comes to our meetings. I respond to phone calls. I respond to emails. I take into consideration all of the concerns. I balance, my background is in law. I balance the concerns, the requirements, and then I make the tough decisions. Eventually I have to respond to that question. And yes, I voted no on the master plan. The master plan included Plan A, which required a significant parcel tax from our community members. Plan B was the other extreme, and unfortunately those are the types of decisions we're faced with. The other extreme was having elementary schools with 1,000 plus students, closing a lot of our schools, and not really trying to find the middle of the road, making the compromises that we have to do to serve our students to the best of our ability while working with our community, understanding that when we knock on your door and ask you for more money, it's coming out of your pocket too, and not all of you are able to continue to give us money, that we have to do the best with the money we have from the state and do the best with any money we receive from our community. I also voted no on the superintendent's raise. I also voted no on, of course, the move. This is a serious problem. Micromanaging versus the policy level. We hire the superintendent. She hires everybody else. However, every time something comes to us for a vote, we are asked to approve things all of the time. And if in fact it's asking for my vote, then I believe I have the right to say yes or no. When you watch our meetings, many people think that we have board members that rubber stamp what the superintendent or staff is requesting. I'm not a rubber stamper. I read everything on my own. I do research. I ask for community input all of the time, and then I make the tough decisions. And I also agree with, Barbara, we all will Kids must come first. That's what we're about. We're about educating every single child that walks through our doors to the best of our ability. We must be fiscally responsible. We have 8 people running because we have serious concerns. I actually encourage all of you to watch board meetings, to come to a meeting, to look back at, you can see it, some of the stuff is online, see the decisions we've made. And when you look at it yourself, I think you're going to end up thinking like our employees have. They have only endorsed me for 2 other people because we really need members that listen.
Well, Barbara, I too agree with what you were saying, as I strongly believe that the board is the one that should be dictating policy, and the superintendent and their staff should be implementing that policy. Unfortunately, I don't always see that, and very seldom actually see that taking place in our current school district. I see more that the superintendent and her staff present something to the board and say, vote on it. I don't see a lot of input from the board as far as questioning what they bring, or even necessarily asking them, hey, how about bringing this policy up, or research this for us. The fact that there aren't questions being asked by board members, there's no excuse for it, none whatsoever. And as a board member, I wouldn't call it micromanaging, I'd be calling it doing my job. As a representative of the people, asking, what does the staff mean by this? Why do they have an initial lease term as far as why they prohibit leasing? They couldn't lease this building because the initial lease was too high. I mean, that's unacceptable, totally unacceptable. I want to see someone negotiate the lease, get it what it would truly be. You know, I'm not going to vote on something that isn't complete. And I don't think the public deserves that. I would also initiate having more open forums for the public, parents, to be involved. That's one of the key problems we have an issue right now, and why things are happening, because people don't get engaged. They aren't paying attention to what's happening out there. I hope there are a lot of people watching this video, but I'm not sure about that. I don't think there's that many people that watch that actual board meetings. Especially when they go into 10:30, 11 o'clock. I wonder why I'm there sometimes. But, you know, but that's the kind of situation. I agree, a key point as far as that Trish made earlier, that the fact that the meeting as far as to approve the lease was done on a Friday night during the summer, where our traditional meetings for the board are on Tuesday night. Nobody's going to pay attention. Nobody's going to even know you're doing it. All of a sudden, it's upon us. And I wouldn't allow that to happen if I was on the board. Thank you.
As I reflected on this question, I remember a quote from John F. Kennedy. He said, "I am certain that after the deaths of centuries have passed over our cities, we too will be remembered, not for our victories or defeat in battle or in politics, but for our contribution to the human spirit. We must all be mindful of our core values as we plan for the future of our children. An effective trustee does his homework, work hard, commit time and energy, which is required to be effective, and think about the future. As an effective board member, you need to understand the needs of students. Here I have a chart. The board policy, we monitor, review, revise, and approve policy. We support staff to implement the board direction. We set the direction, establish the structure, provide support, ensure accountability. We create goals and success indicators for the superintendent, expectations of student learning, priority for a budget, and also parameters for collective bargaining agreements. We are responsible for establishing and maintaining organizational structure, support district vision, support staff in carrying out board direction.
That's right.
We keep focus on long-term strategies, goals, not on administrative tasks that we employ staff to handle. As an effective board member, we follow the district master plan, which has community input and have been approved by the board. This master plan is the blueprint for goals and success indicators for the superintendent and the staff. This is on the website. Thank you.
Actually, I like that definition.
Yeah.
I mean, it really does say what the board needs to do. And I actually look at this board like a corporate board in the private sector. We set up a set of principles and goals that the board proceeds by, and then you set the expectations for the staff, in this case the superintendent, to deliver on this. I would just take, we set the direction, it's how they set the directions, and that's where I think I can make a huge difference in this board. If you look at the current set of MBOs for the superintendent, they're very nebulous. They're built around that master plan, but they don't have, none of those MBOs address how are you going to restore a relationship between the teachers and this, and the administration. Those have to be looked at, and those all come from there. So it's how you implement this or how you direct the superintendent to deliver these things is what's important. The other thing that I think is really important that this board does is that you look at the qualities of every board member. One of the things that I think really needs to be done, and one of the things I probably most disappointed on in the current board, is the lack of teamwork among them. It doesn't mean they have to always agree. I understand the times that some board members have voted no on things. I understand why they vote yes, but it always comes down to that guiding principle, what's best for our students. And so I get disappointed when I would have voted no on the first parcel tax as presented, not because I didn't want to raise $14 million. In fact, I would have asked that parcel tax came to us and first vote on how much money do we need. I would have voted yes, and then how do we structure the tax? And that's where I had the problem. I know that's why somebody voted no on the thing. But once the thing was out there and we had the $14 million tax, you support the hell out of it because it's for our kids. You don't stand on the fact that you voted no and then not support it. It lost by 100 votes. We wouldn't even be in this position that we're currently in if that parcel tax had passed. I also would have done the same thing with, $5 million for a new administration building. Vote no. Our kids need the money in the classroom. They don't need an administration building Taj Mahal. So what you really need to do is have, what you really need, is that time or I have 30 seconds?
You have 30 seconds.
Okay, thank you. Anyway, so what you really need, I think what you need to look at in board members is a proven track history of working in a group, having team collaboration, the ability to learn and adapt quickly, the ability to adapt and admit mistakes when you make one, the ability to listen to different stakeholders, there's many stakeholders, and the ability to paint a vision that will take this district with the goals to attain that vision. Thank you.
This is a very impressive list, but I have a different attitude, I guess. I think it's really important, besides just the definition of, inwardly, when we look at what the board members' responsibilities are, I look at it from a larger view. So one of the things that I look for is I look for someone who's had the demonstrated leadership ability to be able to run a similar kind of an organization, to be able to lead, to be able to go out in the community, gain the needs and the wants and the problems and issues of that community, be able to bring them back to the board, be able to do collaborative work, be able to bring consensus, and be able to take action to be able to solve that issue with the rest of your board members. If you have members who don't do that, what are they there for? The other issues that I have is the behavior of those boards. Not only is it the board members' responsibility to go out in the community and have that communication and connection, you have that not just going in from the front saying, what do you want? But you also have to be there to be able to give them information. They may not always want to hear what the solution or the answer is going to be, but you have the responsibility not to surprise them. This is where a lot of the anger and misunderstanding comes from our community when things don't get communicated in a timely way. That's our responsibility. If you have constituents, then work your constituents. That's what you have to do. And I've had lots of experience doing that. I had experience doing that as the chair of the Measure A campaign. I have experience there. It's the 4 years as the president of the Community of Harbor Bay Isle Board Association, the master board for the 20 associations that are out in our community. There is no way that I could have done any of the things that we managed to do in that 4 years unless I actually exercised those leadership skills. When you come to board meetings, yes, you not only have to do your homework, you follow the Brown Act rules, but also there's the way that you actually hold your meetings. It's important to be able to behave in a professional manner, to adhere to your fiduciary responsibilities. This is America. The board decides something on a majority vote, that's the decision. You back it after that. You don't go and do something in the back room or try to undermine it later on. This is the decision that you have to stick with. A good board member does that. That's what you have to do. This is not easy. You're not going to be loved for being a board member many times. That's absolutely a given here. You're not going to be popular, but you have to do the right thing. And you know, the thing that drives me crazy is that we serve on a lot of different boards, but this is the one board where it involves our children. It's not like BART. It's not like the city. It's not like a park district. It's not like the water district. Thank you.
And sometimes you have to sleep on the couch. So I think it's been fairly well articulated that the school board is 5 members who are supposed to work together to improve the students, all the students of Alameda. We have our own points of view and passion and goals, but to be effective, we need to work together with our colleagues to align to the district policies to our collective goals. We need to understand the theory of actions, the needs of the entire community, the educational and legal requirements we are bound by, and to see where and how we can influence and change policy. Being a leader is about creating actions, not just sharing opinions and questioning everything. An effective board member prepares for the meetings, reviewing all relevant materials, including past presentations. Most of the work we do has been preceded many meetings and frankly years about following what is happening. And we provide consistent direction. When presented with new information, changed circumstances, of course, an effective board member reevaluates their position and changes policies and directions to the progress of the district. Board members are to work as a team and direct the superintendent and to set policy. On micromanaging, it's not the school board member's job to go to a school site and tell principals, teachers, or staff that they're doing their jobs wrong and they need to change something. If you have a problem, you go back to the superintendent and you discuss the problem. On some of the issues brought up, I'll simply say that there's a lot of work that goes on pre-meetings, talking with the superintendent. When we've had the discussion point was we don't have enough community input. I'm proud to say, starting when I came on the board, we have increased our public meetings tenfold over what we used to have. The superintendent started her listening campaign as a separate thing, but then the board, as we directed to say, we need a master plan, and there is a vision. There's the master plan that lays it out very clearly, that this is what we need to do. We created dozens of meetings. We went all around the district. As we discussed about Measure E, Measure A, and how we were doing things, again, we held many, many meetings. Now, unfortunately, there's a saying that we don't necessarily like, but you can't let the perfect be the enemy of the good. And sometimes you have to make decisions that go forward. I see 30 seconds. So that's what I try to do. And you know what? As I listen to Board Member Spencer, she's right. You need to be able to vote and to vote your conscience. I respect that. And I'm proud, actually, that we differ on it. I don't want a board that is always the same. But my votes, I look for the long-term interest of our schools and make sure that we're doing the best for our kids every single day.
Thank you. This pretty much outlines my 2 minutes, right? 2 of my 3 minutes is right up here. And I agree with all of that. I think that's the part that's amiss is that we haven't been doing all of it as best we can. And I think we need to change the balance of power. And I think one of the big things I need to talk about is, I don't know if it's really up there adequately, and that's about monitoring the collective bargaining process. I think we kind of brushed that one under the carpet, and I think also another one that should be up there probably more strongly, and this all came from the same website, it seems to kind of not be up there, is self-evaluation processes. We talk about AB5, but what about AB5 for the board? I think that's kind of like needs to be adhered to a little bit more too. I think that's where we're a little bit more deficient, and we could be a little bit more like checks and balance system, like it was designed to be, with a odd number of 5. Okay, and I also believe that let's see, I'm tired too, just like everybody. I think I'll cut it short. Vote for me, give me a chance, and we'll together, Trish Spencer and Barbara and I will change the balance of power to make better decisions. Thank you.